Hi guys, and welcome back to tietv. I'm Bauer, and today we're gonna tie the shaggy shrimp. So, you know, I'm a pike guy, and fish perch and seatrout and everything like that, but it's the winter time here in Sweden, and it's cold, and basically the only thing we can fish at the moment is seatrout. And during the winter time, their activity goes down and they go into a little bit shallower water, and they are feeding a lot on shrimps. So this is a very simple shrimp, but I really like it because it's easy to tie. It has a lot of buoyancies, so it stays in the water, and the profile is quite heavy, so it almost moves like a small jerkbait in the water. And as I said, it's easy to tie, but it has a little bit magic material inside. It has something called Shaggy Dub. These are small rubber legs, which you can incorporate in the dubbing. And what it does is when the fly is standing still, those small rubber legs are just moving like this, and it's just super cool. You don't have to hackle it, you don't have to use a ribbing or anything like that. It's basically the mouth part, eyes, a Spey hackle, and then put everything in a dubbing loop and you're done. So it's a quite simple fly to tie, very effective. It's working really well, keeping a high profile in the water. Doesn't sink that fast, so it's really good in cold water, and it's a good beginner shrimp, but it's also a very popular shrimp in my opinion. I love this one. And depending on, we're gonna tie it in a very natural color, but what I have here is I'm going to put some fluorescent material in here, and of course you can see the eyes are really a trigger point here. So basically any color. This is going to be a little bit more natural one, but if you want like a small, like a winter fly, you can have this original salmon pink, or you can play around with whatever colors you have. But the whole key here is these small rubber legs. So as soon as the fly is standing still, they just move there in the water, and it's really cool. So let's start. So that's the fly. We're gonna tie it on the Ahrex NS 122. This is the light stinger. So it has it's a wide gape hook. So you have a big gape, very light wire. So it's keeping that high and very light profile in the water. Of course, if you want to fish deeper, you can weight it or use a different hook. So this is my choice of hook for this pattern. But first we're going to start by doing the dubbing. So what we're going to do here is we have a coffee grinder. And we don't have that grinder like where you put in the coffee beans and you grind it. This has like two, like you can see here, we have some materials over here. I'm not gonna have that. You can see it has two blades spinning around. And what they are doing is they're actually making dubbing much more fluffy. And it's also a really simple way to mix dubbings instead of putting them in water and trying to mix them. This is super simple. The only thing you have to think about here is that if you're having very long dubbing fiber, they can have a tendency to burn here. So shorten them down, and you can basically play around with whatever dubbing you have. You can we're actually going to run these Shaggy Dub rubber legs in here too, but you cannot start with doing that. You have to put the other material in first. So what I'm going to do here, I had some leftovers here, so I'm gonna leave that. We're gonna have a little bit mixture of different dubbings. You can play around a little bit what you want here, but the result I want to have here is I want to have a material or a dubbing that has some fluorescent inside of it, so you get that little bit fluorescent light inside of it, and then I'm going to keep it a little bit more natural color. So what I'm going to run here is we're going to put just a little bit of the salt water of the color called, I think it's called, which one is this one? This is the shell pink, so that's the original ones for the famous paddock reason. So we're just gonna have a few of that because this is very fluorescent. So I'm gonna add that in there. We're gonna use SLF Prism. This is the hair color, so it is quite a natural color. So we're gonna use a little bit more of that. Put it in there, put that aside. This is a slightly more brownish color, just to get that little bit different color to it. This is the rusty brown, but you can use copper or whatever you feel like. But this is rusty brown here, so we're gonna add some of that. Put that aside, we're not gonna use that. And then we're gonna use some SLF Prism. This is in gold, because I really like gold in these type of flies. I'm not going to use too much of that, but just a little bit. What it brings out in these natural colors, I don't know why it's working really well, but in my opinion, it's really working well with when you have like grizzly colors or brownish colors, just a little hint of gold. We're also going to run 2 strands of gold flashable in here, so it just adds everything up together. And then we're going to run some, this is Hairline's Senio's Fusion Dub. This is the crusty nail, so it's a little bit brown, but this is a Antron based dubbing, so it's a synthetic dubbing which is giving it a little bit more volume. So we're going to put that in. So we're just going to hit this a few times here. So now you can see that we have a really nice color here, nice mixture, and you can see that we have just slightly a touch of UV in this. I'm going to take some of these Shaggy Dub legs here. The Shaggy Dub. This is tan. It comes in a variety of cool colors. I'm just going to sprinkle a bunch of these on top here. And then we're going to hit this again here. So now they're going to be incorporated into the dubbing. And that makes it, just kind of do it like that so you can see. So now we have these legs incorporated in here. So when we put this in a dubbing loop, we're going to see all those legs coming out like a hackle. So this is the size 4. I usually tie them down to a size 6, but mostly I use them in size 2 or size 4. So these are the 2 sizes I mostly prefer to use. As you know, I like super glue, so we're just gonna start with putting a little bit super glue on the hook shank. I'm tying with the new Textreme. This is a 25 denier, so it's a quite thin thread. I would say it's almost thinner than an 8/0, but it's just super nice to tie with. You can make a lot of thread wraps without you're not even going to notice them. So it's a very nice thread. I'm going to go to the 50 denier when I'm doing the dubbing loop because I'm going to tighten it quite hard, and in that case you can break this thread. Otherwise it's a very strong thread. As you can see, I'm using a razor when I'm cutting the thread off, and these Dyneema threads that I'm tying with, they have a tendency to make the scissors quite unsharp. So to be able to save that a little bit, I'm using a razor when I'm mostly working with the thread, because you get a little bit longer life on your scissors. So we're going to go with the thread all the way back just before the barb here. So we're not going to tie in the hook bend. So we're going to use 2 different hackles. This is the Spey hackle, the Rooster one. This is grizzly dyed tan, but you can play around with whatever color you want. You know, if you can tie these in grizzly, you can tie them in a grizzly dyed salmon, whatever colors. You know, this is just. But I want to keep this a little bit natural, so I think the grizzly dyed tan is a really cool color. And then we're going to use the Coq de Lion. This is also a Rooster one. And what I like with these is they have a very mottled feather. So you can see on the back side here, they are very, it's not a grizzly, but they're very mottled and it looks super cool. We're going to use these as the mouth part of the shrimp. So it just makes like a different structure, but also different hardness of the hackle also, but also it makes a little bit different contrast to this where you have a more similar grizzly buried. So I'm going to take one of these feathers from the back here, which is even more mottled than the one on the front. So as you can see, this has a very nice bar to it. You see it's very lot of texture to it, but it's also quite stiff feather compared to the Spey hackle. So we're gonna take some of these fibers away from the hackle stem and put them into one bunch like that, and we're gonna tie them on the underside of this hook here. So we're just gonna flip it around, tie it in like that, take your dubbing needle and get those on each side of the hook. So this is going to be basically a little bit like a mouth part for the shrimp. However, the parts that they have when they're feeding is a little bit different color than the rest of the tail. So we're going to keep those there. These are a little bit stiffer, so it also prevents the tail from tangling. And that's something I really hate, to have a fly where the tail is tangling. So I think it's good to have that in different ways here. So there we go. I like to put a few extra on top, just to make them go nicely together here. So they kind of mix together nicely. So we have that. So that's going to be, as I said, that's going to be the mouth part where you have underneath here. So now we're going to start with the tail. So we're going to take one hackle where the fibers are like fairly long, which we're going to hackle with. And then we're going to take another one where we're going to pull some fibers to start the tail with. And then we're going to have one further up here in the cape where the fibers are a little bit longer, so we can get a nice taper to it. So we don't have just all the fibers the same length. We want to have them tapered into a slightly longer here. So first we're going to take one of these feathers here, take all the very, very soft fibers away. So now we have a little bit stiffer fibers left here. So what I want to do is I want to kind of pull some of these fibers away from the hackle stem, put them together. So now you can see you have a little bit of a taper here. So those we're going to tie on top here. So this is going to be like the first part of the tail, just over the mouth parts. We're gonna cut the existing material off here. We're gonna take a pair of eyes. These are the Easy Shrimp eyes. Super good eyes in my opinion. You can have them in all different colors. But the good thing with these are they are in different colors, of course, but they're super simple to tie in. And they're very, very fluorescent. As you can see here, this is the fluorescent yellow. And they make a very, very big contrast in these natural kind of flies. So I tie these with black eyes, with orange, pink, you know, whatever color you want. But this is going to be yellow. So we're going to put them on top here. We're going to tie them in. I use this whole part of the eye here because it also gives a quite nice, good taper to the body here. So we go all the way back and forward with the thread here a few times to make this strong and durable. Make sure that they are straight. Just pull them up a little bit. And now you can see that it becomes more like a shrimp here. You have these more like these long antennas, and you have what is simulating the mouth parts of it. I like to put just a drop of super glue underneath here, because it's going to make a very strong fly. Oops, just had a brand new bottle of super glue here, so it's a bit frisky. So we're all the way back there. Now I took another feather which had longer fibers, and that's going to make the kind of the extension, so we get that really long antennas in the back here. So we're going to do the same here, take some of the really soft stuff off. That's good to use also in different patterns, but for now we're going to use this a little bit longer ones here. So I'm going to take those away from the hackle stem here. Put them together. So you can see they are quite much longer than the previous one. You can just make those ends a little bit more similar. And as you can see, they are almost 2 centimeters longer. So we're going to put them on top here, and we're going to tie them in. We're going to tie all the existing materials down here. So now you can see we're getting kind of a taper to the fly here. So now I want to put 2 strands of Flashable in here, or actually it's going to be 1, but it's divided into 2. This is the Polarflash in gold. I really like this because it's a very soft Flashable. So for patterns like this, I think it's perfect. These fibers, when they're making these, they have two small, well, I don't know what they call it, just two small strands of a supporting fiber. They are very clear, but I don't want them. So you can see them here too. I want to take those out. So I'm going to pull that flashable and keep those. Those we're going to throw away. Now we have this flashable strand here, and it's completely naked, and it's really soft and just gold. So I'm going to divide that into two. We're only going to use one of this because I don't want it to be a really flashy fly. So I'm going to tie it in the middle here, and then I'm just going to fold the existing part over here. So it becomes slightly shorter, but it just makes a nice contrast in the tail and just a little spark to it. I'm happy with the tail here. Now we're just going to take one hackle and we're going to hackle it forward and tie it down a little bit, so we get a little bit more fatter tail here. So this is going to be the hackle length on these fibers are not as long as the longest one, but they are a little bit longer, so they're going to kind of make it a nice tail that comes together nicely. So these are around 4 centimeters. We're going to take all the soft materials away here, and we're going to try to get these fibers to fold straight out from the hackle stem. So we have it like that. We're going to tie this in here. So like that. We're going to go a little bit with the thread forward here. So you lock this down, cut the tip off here, and then we have these hackles here, and I want them to be folded back a little bit. So you take the scissor where you have a 90-degree angle, and you just pull it against the stem here like this. Then they kind of fold backwards. You do the same thing on the opposite side here, and then you can see that they're starting to fold towards the back here. So then it's very easy to just push it with your fingers like that, and then you get all the hackle on one side. It's called doubling the hackle. So take a Hackleplier. This is the Petition, the one he has for CDC. I think it's really good for this too, because it's very simple when you grab the hackle by the stem. And then we're just going to fold the hackle forward or backwards when we hackle this forward here. So tight turns just in front of each other here, and then gently folding the fibers back here. So this doesn't have to be super neat, because we are going to tie back over these again. So we tie this off here. So we make sure that that's tied off well, so it doesn't unwrap when we catch a few fish on it. Take a dubbing needle here. We pull out every fiber. So you can see now that they are much more, they're standing basically everywhere. But what I do is I want to build up the volume of the tail, and I also want to have different length of these, because when we're hackling we get a little bit different length of the hackle. So what I want to do now is I want to kind of lift these fibers from the belly up here, so we don't have too many on these on the belly side, because then they're going to tangle in the hook bend the whole time. So lift them up a little bit, and then you're gonna go back with the thread basically to where we started again here. So try to get most of those fibers with you. So I don't want to have too many of these fibers, as you can see on here, because then they're just going to tangle. So most of them on the top side. So now you see I get a little bit more volume and a much more stronger tail. So we're going to go back with the thread here, and then we're going to go all the way to the front here, and then we're going to change thread. So now I'm going to run the 50 denier here, and because we're going to do the loop here, so the 25 denier is a little bit too weak. If you're just running normal dubbing, it worked perfectly, but if you're going to do with the rubber legs and stuff like that, I think it's the 50 denier is a stronger thread for that. So we're just gonna make this nice and neat tapered body here. So now you can see some of these Hackle fibers from the Coq de Lion here, giving that really nice contrast to everything else. So the tail is done, so we're basically only going to do the rest of the material in a dubbing loop, and then we're done. So make a dubbing loop, put the finger here, go all the way back again, tie it in, go twice around the dubbing loop to close it, all the way to the end there, and then we're gonna work with the thread all the way to the tip of the hook here. So then we're gonna put your choice of dubbing twister. I used the Petition dubbing twister here. I like it because it's very simple to handle, and also it's a moving part here, which makes it very, very simple when you want to hackle the dubbing after that. So put it in like that. I'm going to use some dubbing wax to wax the loop off. And then we're going to take the dubbing we just created here, and we're going to try to make it nice and fluffy, so we don't want to have too much of that. It should be, when you're working with dubbing in general, don't pull it together. I mean, keep the volume of the dubbing. That's really the key here, in my opinion, when it comes to dubbing in general. When I buy a new bag of dubbing, which I'm only going to use non-blended, I always put it in the coffee grinder because you get much more volume to the dubbing. So I think it's better to use it like that. It's much more simple and the flies becomes much nicer. So I make a carpet like this. I open the dubbing loop and I put it in here. So now you can see I have it on a carpet here. I try to make it nice and even. And I want to take it away from these fibers so I don't get the Hackle fibers in. And then I just start, this is the good thing with this Hackle twister here, is that you can put your fingers here and you just twist this, and you can twist it fast or slow. So we're gonna get twisting here, and we're gonna twist it quite a lot. Now you can see these Shaggy Dub fibers are coming out like small rubber legs. And we're gonna twist it like that. You can always feel in the end here when the dubbing is situated here, when it's stuck to the thread here, you're done. Then you take your comb here and you get really aggressive on this, because I want to have a lot of these fibers sticking out, but not so much dubbing. So now you can see they're into this dubbing loop here. So we're just gonna start hackling this forward. With your left hand, you fold it back the whole time here. So nice and gentle wraps here, forward. So the body is quite nicely tapered underneath, so most likely I'm going to get a shrimp that are going to be decent in taper here. So we're going to go all the way to the front here, and then we're just going to go with the thread, and we're going to tie that off once more here. Make a few turns, so we make that so it's tied off nice and well. We're gonna go a few more thread wraps here just to secure this. And now we're going to really start combing this out here. So as you can see, I'm using quite a lot of force here to get all these fibers kind of out here. Like if you wrap there. Now we're just gonna see that we have everything out here. Oops, we have a few ones here that are double. Those we don't want. Okay. So getting close to the final fly here. Just gonna take an olive marker here and color the thread a little bit so we don't have that white thread wrap in the front there. And then we're just gonna take some super glue here. Put it on the thread here where we colored it. make a few turns, and then take a whip finish and just make one lock here, and we are done. So here is, oh, maybe 1 second more here. Oh. So here is the Shaggy Dub shrimp. So as you can see now, you have all these tiny rubber legs here, which is basically going to work in your favor when the fly is standing still. They're going to be really moving, and as I said, a simple fly to tie. You can play around in so many different colors, and if you think they're a little bit too long here, well, you can just go in with your scissor and shorten them a little bit so you get the profile you want. So now when we have turned off the light here, we're going to hit this with a little bit black light, and you can see how visible these two eyes are, and also that just a gentle touch of fluorescent materials is really popping in the body. So nice touch to it. Simple fly, has a good buoyancy in the water, and it's a really fishy pattern. So try it out, and as always, leave a comment, and we will give this fly away to you. Take care, or at least one of you guys. Take care, and see you next time.